Hello everyone, my name is Kowkeyman, and in this video the process of creating a generic ledge hang is discussed. By the end of this video you will have the intuition to implement something like the following. Look at how beautifully he jumps. We will however only be focusing on the ledge hang. While this is in 3D, you will be able to take the concepts and apply them to 2D too. This is from my own game which I am currently working on. First we introduce what a ledge hang is, then we discuss what we are going to do, and then we jump into the implementation. First of all, what is a ledge hang? It was introduced in Prince of Persia and has become a staple of any game which has platforming, such as Tomb Raider and Uncharted. It is when the character player is falling and finds himself close to a platform. The character can then hold, usually with his hand, to the platform so as not to keep falling. Later it is typical to follow this up with a jump so that the character can climb on top of the platform, avoiding death and achieving happiness. Other variants of the ledge hang are ledge points, where the character can jump to a specific point on a wall. This is featured in games such as Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted and Tomb Raider. In certain games you can also move along the ledge the character is hanging onto. Both of these are out of scope of this video, however with the knowledge you gain from this blessing of a video you may be able to apply them to cover those cases as well, and then feel good about it because you did not have to watch a tutorial to implement it like a filthy peasant. One final thing before we begin, we assume that you already have a playable human, or as the kids are using nowadays, a playable pill, with a collider as well as moving and jumping functionality and some platforms that the character may jump on. Let's begin. We want the pill to hang onto the ledge of a platform when the pill is facing it and is in the air falling down. Thus, when the pill is falling, we shoot a ray in front of it pointing downwards. You can adjust the position and length of this ray as required for your game. Remember to set a layer mask on this ray to only detect the ground or platform layers. Both raycasting as well as physics layers are usually built into the game engine and can be used out of the box. If you do not know what these are, please go learn them, as they are fundamental both to this tutorial as well as game engines in general. When the ray hits a platform, we can start calculating what needs to happen next. First of all, we get the collision point of this ray and take a note of the Y position. Then we fire a second ray, whose position will be a bit lower, around 0.01 distance below the collision point of the first ray, and this ray will be horizontal, moving away from the player towards the first ray. This is what it would look like in 3D. Then we get the collision point of the second ray and take a note of this ray's X and Z values. The next step is to position the pill some distance below the collision point of the first ray, and some distance away from the collision point of the second ray. You will need to adjust these values depending on your game. If you make the pill too low, or too high, it will look weird, as seen here where the wall is consuming our friend because we moved him too close to the collision point of the second ray. Really, that is it for the basic concept. Now we will delve into some caveats you will want to avoid and make sure you think about. First of all, make sure your player can jump once he is in this hanging state. Although he is not grounded, he should still be able to jump once he is hanging, otherwise he will be stuck there for all eternity. But hey, at least he won't be stuck in a dead-end job contemplating his existence. Next, after he goes into the hanging state, make sure to turn off gravity for him, or make sure that he cannot fall anymore, or the ledge hang will be futile and he will fall and plop to the ground regardless of your best efforts to save this poor man, I mean pill. Thirdly, make sure to detect the ground layer and only the ground layer with the raycasts, otherwise you might end up hanging onto things you should not. And lastly, make sure to only fire off the raycast when the player is falling down, not rising up, during the jump. Why? Well, you'll probably want to avoid this. With regards to our player hierarchy, they have the following, where both rays are parented to the player. This is how we would implement it in Godot. In Unity on the other hand, you simply call to shoot out two rays as needed. In Godot, remember to turn off the active property of the raycasts so that they do not constantly process, but rather, You can use the force raycast update in the physics process method in order to process these. Moving on the actual function. Remember that this function is called every physics frame for the player, or every fixed update in Unity. Firstly, we only process this if the player is not grounded and he is falling down. Then, we shoot out our first ray, the vertical ray. If the ray hits something and our character can transition to hanging on the ledge. Cases of when he cannot hang on the ledge are those such as when he gets staggered because he got hit like a moron. Then, we shoot the horizontal ray from the player towards the vertical ray slightly below the position where the vertical ray hit our ground object. Then, if the horizontal ray also hits something, we can hang the character on the ledge. We move the character slightly away from the platform using the z-basis vector, also known as the forward vector. Make sure to use global transforms in these methods. Then we move the character down by the amount specified. Notice that both vertical and horizontal distance away from platform are variables which we should expose to the editor and tweak as needed for our game. Lastly, we can change the player state, play the animation and make sure that the player can jump in order to exit the state in his lifetime. In Godot, this is the exact code that I have. That is all. Thank you for watching and please watch my video showcase of the game I am working on, link in description, and if you would like to know how I implemented some mechanic in that, let me know in the comments below. If you really like it, consider subscribing for future updates. Thank you and have a wonderful day.